All right, Fireside family, here we are with another training session. Today we're focusing on globe lighting. Let's start out by checking out our globe lights. So, might as well just bring this over. Whenever we first began with globe lights, we started with incandescent bulbs. Those were a bummer because each one of these bulbs took up, I want to say 7 watts of energy, which meant we had to run power all in different directions to make sure we weren't blowing circuits. The beautiful thing now is that we're all LED, and these are just half a watt each, so it makes it much easier to run off of one circuit. Now, regardless, incandescent or LED, these are very, very breakable. So keep that in mind whenever you're utilizing them. You just want to take care and take time because each one of these is $2.50. So just be very careful. We always send extras. So if you do happen to break a few, you can always look into the cardboard box that's inside of here, and there'll be extra globe lights there for you to install and replace. Now, if that ever happens, or if you get a strand that has one missing, keep in mind, you do not want to over tighten these. So my recommendation to you is always going to be to start by plugging your globe lights into the wall. And again, just sort of like take your time to unwind these, find its proper path. Depending on how, like all cables, depending on how they were wound up before, you might have to solve a puzzle to get them to unwind for you. Just like with our normal cable straps, we're going to want to take all of our Velcro and clean it up the moment that you take it apart. And then we'll go ahead and we'll plug her in. Now the reason you're doing this is because as you hang your globe lights, it's just inevitable. You can see it right here. See these 2 in a row? These 2 are not lit. Now that'll be for one of 2 reasons. Either they came a little bit loose, like that one just came on because I just flicked it. That meant I barely twisted it into place and it came on. Or they're burnt out. LED bulbs have great lifespan. So more than likely, they're not dying just yet, and all you have to do is twist. Now here's what I really want to drive home. Just really twist it a little bit beyond the point where it takes to turn on, because these bulbs in particular are very sensitive around the connection point. And if you over tighten, what will happen, so this point right here, the metal sheath, will actually slip and break off of the globe itself. That will happen if you over tighten, and then you'll have to unplug the whole unit. You'll have to try to take this off without breaking it. If you do break it, you're gonna wanna get a set of needle nose pliers to get in there. Again, completely unplugged. You don't want electricity to be going through this whenever you're doing this, but you'll take the needle nose pliers and you'll take that metal connection hub out of there so you can install a new light. But again, very sensitive, so just be careful whenever you're installing this, just to take it to the point of lighting, and then just maybe a half turn beyond that to make sure it stays secure. Okay. And again, just keep an eye out as you're hanging those lights to see which ones are not lighting, because they get significantly harder to get up on a ladder and make that connection tighter once they're hung. Get them turned on before they're hung, and you can just do that, right here on the ground. And that's what you're going to want to do as much as possible, is the work on the ground. So the next step that I want to talk about is dimming. We've got a couple options for dimmer switches here. This is our most basic option. It has a limitation on it of, let's see here, 500 watts. So 500 watts is all that this can handle. Once you plug in more than 500 watts worth of bulbs, this is not going to function. So again, this was not something that we ever used with incandescent bulbs because it was 7 watts of bulbs. So even 100 feet of globe lights was already putting this out of the running. But now that we have these LEDs at half a watt a bulb, we can now utilize this. And it would take 1,000 bulbs of the LEDs in order to short this out, which our strands, by the way, have a bulb once every foot. So it would be 1,000 feet of globe lights, which we have done from time to time, but it's pretty rare. We're usually on average probably between 400 and 500 feet. So here's what happens here. Now, a couple important things. You do not need this adapter. This is a 2-prong power to 3-prong power, a grounded adapter. You do not need this adapter if you are able to plug directly into this dimmer switch with these globe lights. Because it's 2-prong to 2-prong. The globe lights are 2-prong, this receives 2-prong. So, but you will need this if you have an extension cord running from this dimmer pack up to your globe lights. So a perfect example of that is, first and foremost, you want to have this dimmer pack accessible, right? You want to be able to, throughout the course of your event, dim the lights. Maybe in a wedding, for instance, when people are first there, it's full-on brightness. Whenever they have dinner, maybe it's getting darker outside, you want to set the mood a little bit. And then once dancing starts, you want to really enhance your dance floor lights, and so you don't want these to be as bright, so you bring them down just a little bit more. Again, in order to do that, you have to have access to your dimmer pack. So, globe lights are up in the air, right? Dimmer pack, you want to be on the ground, so you don't have to climb a ladder to adjust it in the middle of an event. So more often than not, you would want to have a 25-foot maybe extension cord running out of here and connecting into your globe lights. Our extension cords are all grounded, so you're going to need to have this. It's always going to be sent with this attached to it. You can run this 2-prong directly into this and it's not going to hurt anything, so you might as well just keep it on there. But this is mainly, the purpose of this adapter is if you are running an extension cord. So it allows you to really just get that separation so you don't have globe lights going up the wall. It kind of makes for a little bit of a cleaner look. If you are in a pinch and if this is not here for some reason, you can still attach directly into this. My recommendation though would be to, again, make a cleaner look. Go ahead and just remove the globe bulbs that go up the wall so that you make your design more clean until it gets up to the ceiling where it's actually supposed to be highlighted. You are more than welcome to remove bulbs in order to make a cleaner design. Okay, that is dimmer pack option number 1. That's our most basic dimmer pack. Again, slide up and down. It does have a limitation. I think it's important to note, like once I get past like the halfway point, some of the lights, it just kind of goes dead except for a few, which is very odd. But it definitely has that, the top half is able to be dimmed. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's go talk about dimmer pack option number 2. This one is definitely far more involved, and we only utilize it in a few circumstances. Our first circumstance, and probably most frequently, is going to be if we need to control our lights wirelessly. So a wireless situation would be like Treesdale Country Club. And our design is a zigzag classic weave that goes across there. The cool thing about it is that there's power up inside of that molding. So what that allows us to do is that allows us to plug our globe lights in up there and not have any cabling coming down to the floor at all. It makes it super clean. But we lose the ability to walk over and control a dimmer pack that's on the ground like that because it's tucked away up in there. That's where this comes in. So I'm going to grab, for the sake of instruction, I'm going to grab a surge protector. We'll power this on. This dimmer pack, is a little bit more powerful. It's significantly more powerful. This is the dimmer pack that we used to use with our incandescent lights. So it allows for a lot more wattage to run through it, which is the second reason why we would ever want to use this. If we had to do more than 1,000 feet, we could utilize this. This is able to handle 5 amps on each output, which is equivalent to 500 watts, but there's 15 total amps, so you could get 1,500 feet. Actually, sorry, 1,500. You could get 3,000 total feet off of this. So it really just ups your length. So I'm gonna plug this in. But the other reason, other than added power, is now you can start controlling your lights with DMX. So we are going to plug this in to our outlet. If we're at Treesdale, it's the outlet that's up there where our globe lights start. And then we will plug our globe lights themselves into, being very careful, into any of these channels. And Right now, it's in DMX mode. We need a DMX controller to actually control the dimming mechanism of it. So we're going to take our Obey 4. And we'll power this up. Now the idea here is that you're going to keep this at your DJ booth, right? Because this is going to be your wireless controller, okay? So this will be up at the source where the actual lights are, and this will be at your DJ booth. Again, if you want to make it truly wireless so that there's no cable coming down from the wall, you have to make a wireless connection between these two. So I could easily show you how these two work together by just connecting them with XLR right now, but we're gonna go the whole distance here. We're going to set things up with our wireless wireless DMX in order to really prove the point here. So, wireless DMX, I have it here. And these are our new Blizzard wireless DMX, which are great because they're no longer battery charged, they're actually powered, which is fantastic. We'll go ahead and plug in our receiver. That one's not wanting to do it. Let's try this one. There we go. And again, we can do another training video on wireless DMX, but you just want to make sure that these colors of these lights are matching. So this is going to be our receiver because we're transmitting a signal from here. So we're going to do DMX in to there. And here's our transmitter. It's going to be coming out of our DMX controller. Again, we're going to want to match up. Those colors are matched. So in theory, everything should work. Cool, we'll power this on. Now, let's go ahead and get everything programmed on here first. This is a basic dimmer pack. It has its own kind of pre-programmed shows, but right now we just want to be in DMX mode. So we're going to go ahead, we'll go ahead and hit our mode button until, again, you can see these pre-programmed shows. They have like pulsing and stuff like that. We don't want to worry about that. They are kind of fun to look at if you want to. These are programmed, but we're really never going to use those. We're going to want to go into DMX mode, and we're going to ensure that our DMX channel is programmed to 001. If you see any other number other than 001, just go ahead and toggle down to that 001. And that will allow you to control here with channel 1 on our fixtures. So channel 1, and then we'll go ahead and go to manual RGB W, which I think it goes by default. And then we should be able to start dimming with this first fader. So there you go. Dimming, brightening. It definitely gives you more of a clean sweep with this than the small dimmer pack, but they both work well. So you can see how this utilized, or how this works, and it's fantastic. It all came together really easily for us. But again, in theory, these aren't connected at the same hub. This is standalone, powered up in the ceiling. This is down at the DJ booth. And again, throughout the night, start at full blast. That's typically how we're gonna want it to be. And as the the ambient light from outside starts to dim, you're gonna wanna do the same thing with your lights of the globe lights. And especially when dancing starts, you can bring things down. You can get creative too, if you want to. I've done some fun like little blackout mimics. You can like pulse to the beat of the music. So if you want to, you can put on like a little light show too. So it's very fun. Okay, those are our two dimmer pack options. Your low profile, very simple, and also your more rugged, your more robust, and your wireless option right here. I'm gonna go ahead and strike all this, and then we'll talk about rigging next. All right, so we actually did find a broken bulb in this mix, so I wanted to go ahead and show you all how to safely remove one. You're always gonna find in our box some gloves. I got one here. They're kind of small, these ones are, but they still will get the job done. So again, you're just gonna wanna throw these on at any time so that you avoid cutting yourself. And then, here we go. So you can see this one is just completely shattered. They can either come this way, unfortunately they might get busted in transit, or if they happen at some point, if you drop one, this will just happen. So again, you're gonna wanna use your gloves to just, screw that out. Now, here's what I'm gonna do, and Don't ever do this at home. But I'm actually gonna break this because I wanna show you what it's like if you accidentally, actually here, let's do this. I'm gonna show you how easy it is to take this, for this to come separated from the metal coupler. So to over tighten, so to speak. So turn it, and of course when I want it to happen, it's not happening at all. Wow, this one's actually really, this one's actually a robust one. It's not becoming separated. Okay, so anyways, what I wanted to get across is whenever you do, let's just do this, because I'm gonna just try and recreate a scenario where it comes decoupled from there. So whenever it does come separated from the housing, all of this, the whole bulb will essentially come out and you'll just be left with that metal housing in there. In that scenario, what you're gonna wanna do, still use your gloves to protect yourself, and then take these needle nose pliers. You're gonna wanna reach down in and grab the metal housing and the bulb itself. Again, this glass won't really be here in this scenario, so you'll be able to just grab them both and twist. It's gonna take a minute, but you just have to be nice and careful. And eventually you will get it far enough out that you can go ahead and get it with your fingers with gloves on, and then that way you can remove it. Remember, power completely disconnected whenever you're doing this. If you touch any of these components, there's a chance that you could shock yourself if you're plugged in. All right, that's gonna be a safe way to remove bulbs if they shatter or if they come disconnected and stripped whenever you over tighten. All right, folks, now it's time to talk about rigging. Very key component to creating our globe lighting design, something that we'll be able to establish ahead of time depending on how a venue tour goes, venue site inspection, and how the CAD describes how the globe lighting design will be. So in a perfect case scenario, our venue has its own rigging points. Oftentimes you'll see that in the form of eye hooks that have been pre-installed there, whether they're installed by us. If we get permission to do so, we will do so, or if the venue has it already there for you. These are some of our favorite ways to install and rig globe lighting. A great component, it is anchored into the wall in some way, whether it be horizontally, vertically, however it may be. What we like to do most is double that up with a little carabiner here, and that can go on through, and that way you can actually run the globe lighting cable itself. Carefully get this over here. You can run the globe lighting cable itself through here, and then you can create a great zip tie situation. And we have different lengths of zip ties. Let me get a smaller one. Those are our longest ones. You can put that through there. You can run a zip tie right around the cable itself. That way you can ensure that no matter what happens, how this pulls, this is going to be locked on here, and thus locked into the rigging point as well. It's a really nice way to establish contact to the space. Just because we're gonna show you some other rigging options, we might as well talk about how to get rid of zip ties. You can use one of two devices. These snips are great. They can just easily go in there. You just have to be sure not to snip the cable itself, but you're gonna wanna go in and snip the zip tie. That will give you some freedom there. And again, we're gonna need to open this up. This is actually a secondary. Even without the zip tie, this is not ever gonna come through there. So it really is a redundant way of protection, which is what we love to have, especially when you're suspending a bunch of glass bulbs over people's heads. Let's talk about another way to do this. These are I-beam clamps. These things are great. So if you can imagine, in some of our facilities, we've got exposed I-beams in the ceiling. These can actually clamp onto the I-beams themselves. Boom, they go on, and then we can feed a zip tie itself through a secondary hole. Let's show this right here. So you clamp where my finger is, and then you feed this through this hole that's right there, and then that can actually create another rigging point with the loop, and then you feed your cable through to wherever it needs to be, and then you cinch that down, and now it is attached, it's attached to there. Again, these snips are great for that. Boom, whenever you're done at the end of the night, clip that and it'll be free. I-beam clamps, very handy in exposed situations where beams are there. Okay, let's move forward. Oh, we've got one other securing method. These are our drop ceiling clamps. So these are great. We don't have any drop ceiling here at Fireside to show you, but if you've ever seen, drop ceiling where they have it's like the corrugated foam that just like sits down in the ceiling, you can push it up and that way you can see all the wires and cables that go there. Those all have frames, right? They've got metal frames that those go through. So what this allows you to do is you can squeeze on this and these teeth right here will allow you to go on either side of the frame and clip to it. So then it creates this rigging point for you there. So the best way to do that is before you even go forward with that, weave this through here, and now it's in, and then you open that up and you clip it to the ceiling. It's another cool way of establishing a rigging point at a venue that doesn't have natural rigging points already installed. Okay, rigging points. Very important. Very important to do it sturdily, because again, remember, 100, 200, 300 little glass bulbs suspended over everyone's head. You want to make sure that you are rigging it as sturdily as you possibly can, and you want to walk away from that rigging knowing that nothing is going to come down on top of people. Now, with that idea in mind, these do weigh something, right? They're light, but they over a large expanse, they start to definitely add pressure to those rigging points, and not only to those rigging points, but to the cable itself. And so what we have as a protocol here at Fireside is anytime we are suspending globe lights further than 60 feet, we are going to reinforce them with aircraft cable. And we will typically have this already secured to the globe light run for you, so you don't have to add it to the globe light run whenever you show up on site. But in case you ever get there and that hasn't been done, or if there's an unexpected additional link that you need, here's how you would add it to it. It's very simple. Each one of these globes has a little hook to it. You're just going to want to thread this cable through the hook, and then just go through the next one. And you're going to want to make it so that that cable essentially runs in tandem with the lights and the power cable itself. Now, you're just going to have to do a little bit more of a robust and secure rigging point at the rigging point when it comes to this cable. You're still going to want to zip tie this power cable, and you also will typically gaffer tape that to this cable, to the wire cable, so that they are like one at the starting point. But what you're going to want to do with this aircraft cable itself is, let's say that, pretend that this was a bar that's going across. Maybe it's a railing that you have, that you're on a balcony and you're extending this across. Soldiers and Sailors is a perfect example of this, where we have to use these. You're going to go around the railing itself, and then you're going to take these aircraft cable clamps, and we are going to use this to bind these together. So again, putting it like that, you want to make sure that the flat edge of this is facing out and the sort of gap of this tooth is facing down, so that they come together on top of it. And then you're going to go ahead and hand tighten at first these nuts. And you're going to want to come in with for imagery's sake, but then you're going to use your needle nose pliers to just really tighten these nuts down, make sure that they're good to go. These are what are going to secure those cables together. Now, I will typically do two, right? So the first one was really easy to thread on there. Now this one, unfortunately, you're going to have to really open up. Again, redundancy is such an important thing here with these. We're going to put that through the U shape. We're going to take the gap itself and put that down in there, and then we will hand tighten nuts on there, and then drive it home with our pliers. Cool. Now we've got serious redundancy. That is locked on there. That's not going anywhere. And now you've got the added reinforcement throughout the whole line. Again, this is threaded the whole way. And then at the ending point, you're doing the same exact thing with this to make sure that the pressure is really on this very, very strong cable and not on the actual plastic power cable itself. Okay, rigging. Those are your different styles. Now, let's go ahead and just show how we would do it in a scenario here, live. Now, something else, we were talking about in-house rigging. We talked about a railing at Soldiers and Sailors. We talked about eye hooks that might already be installed. Fox Chapel Golf Club has things like this. There might be other beams or bars that are there. What if we don't have in-house rigging options? We're more often than not going to bring our truss pillars in order to attach there. So we're gonna just create, because Fireside Events actually doesn't have a really great rigging situation, in-house rigging for globe lights. So right now we're gonna create our own with these truss pillars. First thing we're gonna wanna do, just as we spoke about before, we're gonna wanna plug in our globe lights. Make sure that as we're hanging them, none are burnt out and all are fastened and secured. Now, I'll probably want to, for a clean design, just like we talked about before, start with an extension cord. So I will take that out. And for the sake of doing everything, might as well just add a dimmer pack in here, right? So we're gonna bring it all together. Dimmer pack, right here. With the adapter, 3-prong, we'll plug in our extension cord. We will run our extension cord up to the top. We'll clean that up in just a minute. And we will connect our globe lights in. Dimmer pack's on full power. Might as well at this point, because we've proven that the extension cord is good, we'll throw on some bungee balls to run this nice and neatly down our trussing. In this case, 2 should do the trick. Cool. And now we're gonna want to, we've secured our power, but now we wanna go ahead and secure our globe lights to the trussing. So in order to do that, we're gonna wanna take our zip ties and we're gonna wanna double fasten this point right here. We'll do 1, and then we're gonna go in the opposite direction, kind of creating an X. Now remember, this is our starting rigging point. This is kind of where all that pressure is going to be applied, okay? And then we'll want to snip those edges, those ends, to make them nice and clean. And we'll be good to go. Cool. Something to always consider with these truss pillars. These globe lights, as you pull them across the floor, again, they weigh not much, but they do have weight to them. But even more of a concern in this scenario is, as you pull them, they're going to apply pressure to the lighted truss pillar, or to the truss pillar itself. And so you want to make sure, we don't have them here in this video and I apologize for that, you want to make sure that your base plates are sanded, because there is the very real possibility that as you pull and as you make this tight, you could pull the truss pillar over. See what I mean? So add a little bit of sand. 50 pounds, honestly, would do the trick, but here we go. So before we rig this, let's talk about swag, right? Swag is something that, you know, it's debatable on how much, how little is the right way to go. But personally, I'm a big believer of not making globe lights completely taut. Taut is just like a straight flat line. And honestly, once you get to a certain distance, it's practically impossible to do this, because it's just naturally they're going to have to swag a little bit. So I think it's a good thing no matter what, aesthetically, to give just a little bit of swag Not too much. Too much, it starts to look sort of droopy, is probably the best way of putting it. But finding like a healthy swag. Now, you want to make sure, and this is why we tend to send truss pillars that are very tall. You want to make sure that no matter how low your swag is, you're not at a position where it's going to be hitting people in the face. I also really love the idea of like average human beings not being able to reach up and grab them. If you have to jump to grab them, yeah, it's okay to have them within that range, because honestly, if people are doing that, yeah, there's something else going on. But honestly, I think this is a pretty healthy swag to look for. And you would just want to do the same thing on the other end. Just add those 2 zip ties to secure it over here as well once you get the swag dialed in. Now let's talk about if this were, say, the second pillar. Maybe we were making a zigzag design, and say we had another pillar back here. Let's just imagine that. We would try to put it, symmetry is a very big component of globe light designs. So we would want to try and make it the same distance here to here, and make sort of a, what would that be? An equilateral triangle, I believe. You know, same distance from here to here and here to here, all equal, so it's symmetric. Also equal, we would want to have the same count of globe lights running from here to here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 globe lights between these two. This, if it's the same distance, should be the same amount of globe lights, give or take. You know, right here, you can see that's starting with a globe light right there. This is starting with, there's like 8 inches right here. So there's a little bit of a difference already made there, because you're now starting further along the chain. So you might end up with 1 extra globe. You might end up with 1 less. But in the end, what you're going to want to do is, before you rig it and secure it, you're going to want to step back. And you're going to want to make sure that the swags match. That's the main thing, right? So count the bulbs, tightening as you go, and then beyond that, just make sure that your swags are nice and even. You know, so it's not like one's high and one's low, like that. You want to try and make it nice and even, just like that. And this is where you can have your helper. We always send 2 people crews, but you can have the one person on the ladder and the other person on the ground, making sure that that swag is nice and even. Cool. Now, let's say that this is the end, right? Let's say we're just going from here to here, or this is just the end of the run. What you would want to do in this scenario, I'm not going to do it because we have a lot of bulbs here, but you would want to actually debulb this whole unit so that you don't just have like a big bundle of globe lights there. You'd want to debulb the whole unit. You would want to bring everything nice and neat down the truss pillar, and then make a nice cable wrap down in the bottom. Most of the time when we do truss pillars for globe lights, they are lighted with an uplight. So you just place it underneath that uplight, and the uplight would go on top of it. Yeah, that is pretty much it when it comes to rigging. I feel like we've covered some good stuff. The last thing that we want to talk about is our CAD, our globe lighting CAD design. So we're going to pull that up. Let's talk about our globe lighting CAD designs. We've had a lot of different iterations of these throughout the years. We've been designing ever since we started about 10 years ago. So you'll see different types of designs. We are going to try and streamline all of them eventually, so you can expect to see the same motifs. But in a perfect world, at least right now in 2025, here's what you would want to be seeing. And we use a couple different indications here. Number one, it's going to be your title at the bottom. This one's titled The Weave. It's a very common themed title for us. It's essentially where we have triangle zigzags that are going in different directions that create a weave scenario. In this case, you've got 3 different ones. You've got essentially your red triangle zigzag, you've got your orange triangle zigzag, and you've got your green triangle zigzag, and they're all coming together to create this nice strong weave. Most of the time, we'll just have 2 triangle zigzags, but there's 3 in this scenario. So you've got your name. the title. You also have how many feet are there, so 300 feet of total globe lights. Here's the indication down here. The S is standard. That means that it is not reinforced with our cable. That's what the R stands for, is reinforced with the cable. So you've got 0 footage with reinforced, so you don't have to worry about the cable. All of these links are below 60 feet. And then the last one is TS, which means 2-story. In those cases, we have to get up on top of scaffolding that is 2 stories tall. It's just another level of safety that we need to imply, and it's a heightened level of crew member that is okay with heights that needs to go up to that level. So in this case, it's very standard. We can do it with an 8-foot ladder. We can do it with a single set of rolling scaffolding. This is very basic and hopefully fun and easy to do. Now, the next thing that you want to keep in mind is the actual distances here. So when you see 30 feet here, you can know that is this whole distance of green. Now, you can look and see that this is going to repeat itself essentially on each of these. Each one of these is going to be 30 feet. This one is 16 feet connecting from this rigging point to this rigging point. So you're going to be able to see that here in between that rigging point, that rigging point, that rigging point, that rigging point. And so it just gets recreated. It's 13 feet in between this rigging point and the wall. And so we only write it once so it doesn't clutter everything up, but you can repeat it and get an idea. And again, just remember, every bulb in between is approximately 1 foot. So it gives you just kind of a frame of reference. Now, that gets increased a little bit because this is linear footage, and when the swag gets created, it's gonna be a little bit more, right? So from here to over there might be 8 feet, but we have 9 bulbs because there's swag there, and that's okay. Last thing that you're going to want to check out is your start and end points. We've tried to really think through how you're going to run this design so you don't just go there and be like, okay, I'm gonna start here and see how it all works out. Well, it's more intricate than that because again, we want everything to be connected by one power supply if possible. So we've really tried to think this through and make it so that everything can have one power supply right here, whether it's a cube tap with these 2 different starting points or if it's that dimmer pack that has different plugins, you can accomplish it right here. So the idea is that you start this green one here, boom, 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 and you end it there. You start the red one here, dun, 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 and then you actually connect the red to the orange here, and then come back and you end it right there. So this is a perfect example of what I feel like is a really decent setup CAD. It might be nice for us to actually have a note here that says connect red to orange. That's a way that we can continue to evolve. The other way that you're seeing here too, actually there aren't arrows, but we could potentially have arrows. But if you see that there's a start, it kind of indicates that it goes in this direction. But other than that, it's pretty good. It's at Phipps, it's their special events hall, and that is a pretty decent example of a globe lighting design CAD. That's it. That's it for now for our globe lighting setup. We covered the CAD, we covered rigging, different rigging options, we covered the dimmer switches, and we covered just general safety concerns about globe lights. One other thing that I almost forgot about. I'm gonna go ahead and grab a second strand. You are at some point going to have to connect strands. Our strands come in 2 different lengths. There's 50 feet and 25 feet. You're always going to want to connect it in the tying style. So, you got the end of this run right here, right? You got your female end of the power. You got your male end of the starting of the next run. We'll clean up our cable or our Velcro strap, and then we're gonna go ahead and tie these together. We'll put them crossing, we'll flip this over, we'll make a knot, and then we'll bring these together. Power on, and then we'll pull. This is an almost completely foolproof design, but just to add some redundancy, we're gonna go ahead and put a zip tie right here as well. That those cables stay nice and on there and everything stays connected. That's what you're gonna wanna do when you're connecting cables. All right, you're all set. Enjoy, be safe, and have a good time setting up some great globe lighting designs. Thank you.